Look around you. Everything the world trusts in is crumbling. Governments fail, economies collapse, and the very foundations of society shake. People are searching for something solid, something unshakable, but all they find is uncertainty. Fear grips the hearts of many, even those who call themselves believers. And I ask you, where is your faith? Many speak of trusting God, but when trials come, they panic. They pray for God's will. But when His will leads them through the fire, they resist. They say, God, I'll follow you, but only if the path is smooth, only if they can see what lies ahead. But that is not faith, that is sight. And we are not called to walk by sight. If your faith is built on comfort, it will crumble in suffering. If your faith is built on circumstances, it will collapse in uncertainty. But if your faith is built on Christ, on the unshakable, sovereign, all-powerful God, then no storm, no trial, no darkness will move you. So I ask you again, where is your faith? Do you trust Him when you cannot see? Do you cling to Him when everything falls apart, or do you only believe when it is easy? Tonight, I am not here to give you soft words. I am not here to entertain you. I am here to call you to something deeper, a faith that stands, a trust that endures, a walk that does not waver even in the darkest of times. If you are truly His, then listen, because the time for weak faith is over. It is time to walk by faith, not by sight. It is time to trust God's plan, even in the storm. Faith is not a feeling. It is not an emotion that rises and falls with the tides of your circumstance. It is not some fleeting experience that burns hot one moment and fades the next. If your faith is built on how you feel, then it is no faith at all. Because feelings change, they are tossed by the wind. But true faith, biblical faith, is a foundation, unshakable, immovable, because it is rooted in the unchanging character of God. Yet many today treat faith as if it depends on their mood. When life is good, they are confident. When trials come, they begin to question, where is God? Why is this happening to me? As if faith means never facing difficulty. As if trusting God means you will always understand His ways. But that is not faith. That is arrogance. The assumption that we have the right to demand answers from the Almighty. That is not walking by faith. That is demanding sight. Faith does not say, God, I will trust you as long as you explain everything to me. Faith says, God, even if you give me no answers, even if I see nothing, I will trust you because you are God and I am not. Faith is standing firm when everything in you wants to run. It is holding on when you see no reason to hold on. It is knowing deep within your soul that even in the darkness, even in the silence, God is working. Some of you are here tonight, and if you are honest, your faith is weak. It is shallow. It is built on emotions rather than truth. You believe when things are easy, but the moment trouble comes, you begin to doubt. You cry out to God when you are in pain, but the moment He does not respond the way you expect, you turn away. And then you wonder why you feel so distant from Him. You wonder why your faith is shaky. I will tell you why, because it was never rooted in Him. It was rooted in circumstances. Let me ask you something. If God took everything from you, would you still trust Him? If He stripped away your comfort, your security, the things you hold dear, would you still say, "Blessed be the name of the Lord"? Or would you walk away revealing that your faith was never in Him, but in what He could give you? I want you to listen to me carefully, because this is serious. The world is changing. The days ahead are not promised to be easy. Trials will come, hardships will come, and when they do, your faith will be tested. Not the faith you speak about in church, not the faith you post about online, the real faith that exists in the deepest part of your soul. And when that testing comes, if your faith is built on anything other than Christ, if it is built on comfort, on blessings, on temporary things, it will crumble. You say, but I believe in God. So does the devil. Belief is not enough. Faith is not simply acknowledging that God exists. Faith is throwing yourself completely upon Him, trusting Him even when everything around you says not to. Faith is what held Job when he lost everything. It is what carried Abraham when he left everything he knew. It is what strengthened Paul when he was beaten, imprisoned, and left for dead. They did not follow God because it was easy. They followed Him because He alone was worthy. Many of you are waiting to feel strong before you trust God. You are waiting for the right emotions, the right circumstances. But faith does not come from feeling strong. It comes from knowing you are weak. It comes from realizing you have nothing apart from Him, that you cannot walk, cannot stand, cannot breathe without His grace. That is true faith. Some of you need to stop waiting for perfect conditions before you trust God. Some of you need to stop waiting for a sign before you step forward in obedience. God has already spoken. His word is clear. Trust Him. Walk in faith, not because you feel like it, but because He is faithful. Do not build your life on something that shifts with the wind. Do not build your faith on something that will fail you. Build your life on the solid rock of Christ, on the unshakable promises of God. And when the storms come, and they will come, you will not fall, you will stand. Because faith is not a feeling, it is a foundation. You look around and all you see is uncertainty. The world is unraveling. Nations rise and fall. People live in fear. They cling to their wealth, their security, their comforts, but deep down they know none of it will last. They see the instability, they feel the weight of it, but instead of turning to God, they panic. They grasp at anything that promises them control. And here's the real tragedy. Many who claim to follow Christ do the exact same thing. They say God is sovereign, but when life becomes unpredictable, their fear betrays them. They say God is in control, but the moment things do not go as they planned, they crumble. Their faith is exposed for what it truly is, a shallow belief that only exists when everything is going their way. But listen to me, uncertainty is not proof that God is absent. It is proof that He is in control. It is the testing ground of true faith. God is not shaken by the storms. He is the one who commands them. He is not surprised by your trials. He is the one who ordained them. You say, but why would a loving God allow suffering? I say, why would a holy God allow us to take another breath? You have forgotten who you are speaking of. He does not answer to you. He does not owe you an explanation. He is God, and His ways are higher than yours. Look at the world around you. Do you think the chaos is beyond His control? Do you think He has lost His grip? You sit there worried about tomorrow, but He has already written it. The same God who holds the universe together, who commands the wind and the waves, who raises up kings and brings them down, He has not changed. The problem is not that God is absent. The problem is that you do not trust Him. What do you think faith is? It is not trusting God when you can see the outcome. It is trusting Him when you cannot. It is believing that even when everything seems to be falling apart, His plan is still perfect. The Israelites stood at the edge of the Red Sea, pursued by Pharaoh's army, and they thought they were doomed, but God had a plan. Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, years of suffering with no explanation, but God had a plan. Job lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health, but God had a plan. And when Christ hung on that cross, His disciples thought it was the end. They thought all hope was lost, but God had a plan. And He has a plan for you right now, in this moment, in the middle of whatever storm you are facing, but you cannot see it because you are too busy looking at the waves. You are too focused on the uncertainty. You are trying to hold on to control when God is telling you to let go. Some of you are afraid of what is coming. You see the darkness in this world and it terrifies you. But did God not say, "Do not fear, for I am with you"? Did He not promise, "I will never leave you nor forsake you"? Do you think He was lying? The problem is not the uncertainty of the world. The problem is your lack of faith. You do not trust Him, and it is killing you. You worry, you stress, you fight for control that is not yours to have, and all the while God is calling you to let go. Listen to me, God does not lose. He does not fail. He does not make mistakes. What you call uncertainty, He calls providence. What you call chaos, He calls His plan unfolding. You may not understand it, you may not see it, but that does not mean He is not working. Some of you are waiting for clarity before you trust Him. You are waiting for a guarantee before you obey. But faith does not demand explanations. It trusts, even in the unknown. You must decide, will you trust Him or will you live in fear? Will you walk by faith or will you demand sight? Because I promise you this, if you do not trust Him in the storm, then you never trusted Him at all. God's sovereignty is not just a theological idea, it is the foundation of our faith. It means that even when everything around us seems uncertain, He is not. Even when we have no answers, He does. He does not need your understanding. He requires your trust. So stop clinging to fear. Stop holding on to control. Surrender to the one who holds all things in His hands. because the storm is not proof that God has abandoned you. The storm is proof that He is at work. The world tells you to be strong. It tells you to rely on yourself, to take control, to believe in your own power. It tells you that you have what it takes, that deep down you are enough. But the world is lying to you, because the truth is, you are not enough. You are not strong. You are weak. You are fragile. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you will stop leaning on yourself and start leaning on God. Some of you do not like hearing that. You have been told your whole life that strength means independence, that faith means having everything under control. But let me tell you something. Your greatest enemy is not your weakness. Your greatest enemy is believing you are strong when you are not. Because as long as you think you are strong, you will never rely on God's strength. As long as you think you can handle life on your own, you will never cry out for His help. But God does not work through those who are full of themselves. He works through those who are empty. He works through those who know they have nothing, those who have been broken, those who have come to the end of themselves and have only one place left to go, Him. Some of you wonder why God keeps bringing trials into your life. You wonder why He allows suffering, why He lets everything fall apart. You think He is punishing you, but maybe, just maybe, He is saving you. Maybe He is breaking you down so that you will finally stop trusting in yourself and start trusting in Him. Look at Scripture. Every man and woman God has ever used, He first had to break. Abraham had to leave everything behind. Moses was stripped of his power and status before God sent him back to Egypt. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery. David was hunted like an animal before he ever became king. Paul was beaten, shipwrecked, and left for dead. And Peter had to be crushed by his own failure before he could ever be the man God called him to be. You think your suffering is meaningless? You think your pain is wasted? God is not wasting a single ounce of it. He is tearing down the walls of self-sufficiency you have built around your heart. He is stripping away your pride, your arrogance, your belief that you can do this on your own. And He is saying, you are not enough, but I am. Some of you are exhausted. You are tired of trying to hold it all together. You are drowning in fear, in stress, in anxiety. You feel like you are barely surviving, barely keeping your head above water. And the reason is simple. You are trying to carry what only God can carry. You are trying to do in your strength what can only be done in His. God does not need your strength. He never did. He does not need your abilities, your wisdom, your plans. What He needs is for you to surrender, to lay it all down, to admit once and for all that you cannot do this without Him. You say, but if I admit that I am weak, what will happen to me? I will tell you what will happen. You will finally be strong. Not in yourself, not in your own power, but in Him, because His power is made perfect in weakness. His strength is revealed when you come to the end of yours. You want to know why so many people in the church today are powerless? Why they live in fear? Why they have no victory over sin, no joy, no real fire in their hearts? It is because they are still trying to be strong in themselves. They are still clinging to their own strength, and so God resists them. Because God resists the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. You must decide, will you keep pretending you have everything under control, or will you surrender? Will you keep trying to fight in your own strength? Or will you fall on your knees and cry out, God, I cannot do this without you? Because until you do, you will never know His power. Until you do, you will never know true strength. The strongest man in this room is not the one who has it all together. It is the one who is on his face before God, broken and dependent. The strongest woman in this room is not the one who can handle everything life throws at her. It is the one who knows she cannot, and so she clings to Christ with everything she has. You are weak, but God is strong. And if you will stop trusting in yourself and start trusting in Him, you will see His power in ways you never imagined. You will walk in a strength that is not your own. And when the trials come, when the storms rage, you will not be shaken, because you will not be standing in your own strength. You will be standing in His. Everyone wants to talk about faith until it costs them something. Everyone wants to follow Jesus until the road gets difficult, until obedience requires sacrifice. But let me ask you, are you really willing to walk the narrow path? Because the call to follow Christ is not a call to comfort. It is not a call to convenience. It is a call to die. Some of you want a Christianity that fits your life. You want Jesus, but you do not want the cost that comes with Him. You want to call yourself a disciple, but you still want control. You still want to hold on to your plans, your dreams, your comforts, your reputation. But listen to me. The path of faith is narrow, and not everyone who claims to follow Christ will walk it. The question is not whether you say you believe in Jesus. The question is whether you will follow him when obedience means suffering. Will you still trust him when he leads you into the fire? Will you still walk by faith when it means losing everything? Or will you turn back like so many do because deep down you never truly counted the cost? Some of you think faith is about seeing miracles, about experiencing spiritual highs, about feeling close to God when everything is going well. But faith is tested in the darkness. Faith is proven when there is no sign, no feeling, no clarity, only obedience. And that is where many turn away. Do you remember the rich young ruler? He came to Jesus with all the right words. He wanted eternal life, he wanted the kingdom, but when Jesus told him to leave everything behind and follow him, the man walked away. He wanted faith that did not cost him his possessions, his security. He wanted to follow Jesus on his own terms, but that is not discipleship. And many in the church today are no different. Some of you have been raised in Christianity. You know the right words, you know how to act, but your heart is still clinging to this world. You think you can follow Christ while holding on to everything he has called you to leave behind. But Jesus does not bargain. He does not negotiate. He says, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. Do you understand what that means? It means you do not get to live however you want. It means that when he calls you to walk away from sin, you obey. When he calls you to endure suffering, you endure. When he tells you to go, you go. It means you lay down your rights, your comforts, your very life at his feet and say, not my will, but yours be done. But many of you want a faith that does not cost you anything. You want a road that is wide, a path that is easy. But listen to what Jesus said. The gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and few find it. Few. Do you hear that? Not many, not most. Few. Because the path of true faith is costly, and most people are not willing to pay the price. Some of you need to ask yourselves right now, am I truly on that path? Am I truly walking in obedience? Or am I just a religious person who says the right things but refuses to surrender? Because there is no middle ground. There is no such thing as half-hearted faith. Either you are following Christ or you are not. Some of you are waiting for an easier road. You are waiting for obedience to feel comfortable, but it never will. The cross is not comfortable. The narrow path is not easy, but it is the only road that leads to life. You say, but I am afraid, then trust him. You say, but I do not know where he is leading me, then follow him. Faith is not about understanding every step. It is about obeying the next one. Abraham left his home without knowing where he was going. Moses stood before Pharaoh with nothing but a staff. Daniel walked into the lion's den not knowing if he would survive. And Christ himself went to the cross knowing it would cost him everything. And yet they all obeyed. They all walked the narrow road. The question is, will you? Will you trust him even when obedience costs you everything? Will you walk by faith when the path is uncertain, when the world mocks you, when you are left with nothing but him? Because if you are not willing, then you have not truly surrendered. Some of you need to stop playing games with God. You need to stop pretending you are on the narrow path when your life says otherwise. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for faith to be easy. Obey him now. Follow him now. Because the narrow path may be hard, but it is the only one worth walking. Some of you have been waiting for God to show you everything before you take the first step. You want clarity before obedience. You want guarantees before faith. But that is not how it works. God does not give blueprints. He gives commands. He does not lay out the entire road before you. He says, follow me, and that is enough. Some of you are standing still, paralyzed by fear because you cannot see the next step. You are waiting for everything to make sense, for every question to be answered. But faith does not demand explanations. Faith moves. Faith walks. Faith steps forward even when the road ahead is hidden. Think about Abraham. God called him to leave everything behind, his home, his security, everything he knew, and go to a land that God would show him. Did you hear that? A land God would show him. Not a land Abraham could see, not a land he had mapped out. He had no idea where he was going, no idea how things would turn out, no idea what the journey would cost him. But he obeyed. He walked by faith, not by sight. And that is what many of you refuse to do. You say you trust God, but you will not move unless you have all the answers. You say you believe in his sovereignty, but you hesitate because you do not know what is coming next. But let me tell you something. If you must see before you obey, then you are not walking by faith. You are walking by sight. Faith does not wait for conditions to be perfect. Faith does not wait until everything is easy. Faith obeys. And some of you right now are delaying obedience because you are afraid. You are afraid of failure. You are afraid of hardship. You are afraid of what it will cost. But faith does not ask, will this be easy? Faith does not ask, will this be safe? Faith simply says, God has spoken, so I will obey. Do you remember Peter? He saw Jesus walking on the water and he wanted to go to him, and Jesus said, come. That was it. No explanation, no safety net, no details about how Peter would make it across, just one word, come. And Peter stepped out. He walked on the water, not because he understood how, not because the waves had calmed, but because Jesus had called him. But then what happened? He took his eyes off Christ. He started looking at the waves. He started thinking about the impossibility of what he was doing. And the moment he trusted in his own sight instead of God's word, he began to sink. And that is exactly what some of you are doing. You have stepped out in faith, but now you are looking at the storm. You are focusing on the dangers, the difficulties, the unknowns, and you are sinking not because God has failed you, but because you have taken your eyes off him. Some of you are waiting for a sign before you move. You are waiting for some miraculous confirmation, some supernatural assurance. But you already have his word. You already know what he has said. The problem is not that God has not spoken. The problem is that you do not trust him enough to obey. You say, but what if I fail? Let me ask you, when has God ever failed? When has he ever abandoned his people? When has he ever given a command and not provided the strength to fulfill it? Your fear of failure is not about your abilities. It is about your lack of trust in his power. Some of you are afraid of what people will think. You know what God is calling you to do, but you are hesitating because it will cost you your reputation, your comfort, your relationships. But listen, if you are more concerned about the approval of men than the command of God, then you are not walking by faith. You are walking by fear. And fear will keep you trapped in disobedience. Faith is not passive. It is not just sitting in a church and saying, I believe. Faith moves, faith obeys, faith acts, even when it does not understand. And some of you need to stop waiting and start walking. Stop asking for a sign and start obeying what he has already told you, because delayed obedience is disobedience, and there is no middle ground. You want to see the power of God in your life? Then trust him enough to take the first step. You want to walk on water? Then step out of the boat. You want to experience his faithfulness? Then stop hesitating and obey. Because the God who calls you is the God who will sustain you, and if you keep your eyes on him, you will never sink. Some of you have spent your whole life searching for security. You've built your foundation on the things you can see, the things you can touch, your money, your career, your relationships, your reputation, and you think of those things will hold you up when the storm comes. But let me tell you something. If your faith is in anything other than Christ, it will crumble. You may not see it now. You may feel safe, comfortable, in control, but everything in this world is passing away. Everything you cling to, everything you build your life on. If it is not Christ, it will not last. The world promises security, but it cannot deliver it. It tells you that if you just work hard enough, save enough, plan enough, you will be safe. But then the unexpected happens. The economy crashes. The doctor calls with bad news. The people you love walk away, and suddenly the foundation you thought was so strong begins to crack beneath your feet. Some of you are living in fear because deep down you know that the things you trust in are not unshakable. You know that your security is built on sand, and you are terrified that one day the the waves will come and sweep it all away. But there is only one foundation that cannot be moved. There is only one rock that will stand when everything else falls, and that rock is Christ. Some of you are struggling with anxiety because you are trying to hold on to control that was never yours to have. You are constantly worrying, constantly stressed, constantly afraid of what the future holds. And the reason is simple. You are placing your trust in things that can fail instead of in the one who never will. Do you remember the parable Jesus told? Two men built houses, one on the sand, one on the rock, and the storm came, not if the storm came, when the storm came. Because make no mistake, the storms will come, trials will come, suffering will come, and in that moment, everything will be tested. Your faith will be tested, your foundation will be tested. The man who built on the sand, his house was swept away. Why? Because he built on something that could not hold him. But the man who built on the rock, his house stood firm because his foundation was unshakable. What are you building your life on? Are you building on the temporary things of this world? Are you building on your own strength, your own wisdom, or are you standing on the unshakable foundation of Christ? Because only one of those will endure. Only one of those will remain when everything else is gone. Some of you say you trust in Christ, but the moment the storm comes, you panic, you fall apart, you question everything. And that is because your faith was never truly in Him. It was in your circumstances. It was in your comfort. It was in the illusion of control. And when those things were stripped away, your true foundation was revealed. Let me tell you something. If you are in Christ, you do not have to fear the storm. You do not have to fear what is coming because He is unshakable. And if your life is built on Him, then nothing, not sickness, not loss, not persecution, not death, nothing can move you. That does not mean the storms will not come. That does not mean suffering will not be real. But it means that when everything else is collapsing, you will stand firm. Not because of who you are, but because of who He is. Not because you are strong, but because He is your strength. Some of you need to stop trusting in things that will fail you. You need to stop looking to the world for security. The world is fading, it is temporary, it is fragile, but Christ is eternal, and He alone is enough. So ask yourself, what is my foundation? What am I truly trusting in? Because if it is anything other than Jesus, then you are not safe, you are not secure, and when the storm comes, you will fall. But if you will surrender, if you will build your life fully and completely on Him, then you will stand. No matter what comes, no matter what is taken from you, no matter what trials you face, you will not be shaken, because He is unshakable, and if you are in Him, so are you.